Growing up, I had dreams and aspirations, but always felt like the kid that didn't fit in. For the most part, I wasn't a bad kid, but when I made the transition into adulthood, I turned to the streets for guidance. This led to getting locked up in juvenile hall, doing time in CYA, and eventually a 120-month sentence in federal prison. I had a lot of time to think and reflect during my federal sentence, so I share with you what I learned, hoping I can positively influence someone else's life with Prison Talk. If shit hit the fan and we wanted to get into the whole racial situation, I think it would be more of a survival thing. I don't think, as far as my sentiment, because I talked to guys who were skinheads in the pen, and I've talked to guys who were Serranos in the pen. I've talked to bikers in the pen. I've talked to Crips. I've talked to Bloods. I've talked to gangster disciples, Latin Kings. I've talked to a lot of these different groups, Norteños in the pen, and a lot of the stuff that goes on in the pen is simply because of political pressure. So if these guys didn't have that political pressure of reacting due to past situations, I don't think you would have a lot of that racial divide. Guys get these tattoos because they want to invoke fear or set a statement, but looking past all that shit, a lot of them are just, they're humans. They're not any different than the next man. Black, white, brown, yellow, it doesn't really make a difference. The racial divide in prison is pushed, like I mentioned before, by the institutions. They love to have, a lot of the guards in prison are racist. You go down south and you got, they call you boy. They expect you to say yes, sir, and yes'm and all this bullshit. So the guys running the prison are basically old ass racist motherfuckers. And they even if they're not racist, by the time they get to the institution, they're pushing the agenda of their coworkers, whether it be a black guy pushing the agenda for the blacks, or a white guard pushing agendas for the whites, or a guard, a Hispanic guard, pushing an agenda for the Hispanics, And if he's up north, he's pushing for the Norteños. If he's down south, he's looking out for the Serranos. So it's a lot of bullshit, man. And prison is such a small, confined environment. Everybody's fighting for a little bit of nothing. You're fighting, you're amongst 2,000, let's say, inmates, and you're fighting for control of the drug trade, heroin, cocaine, weed, cigarettes, alcohol. You're fighting for control of the food in the kitchen, who's stealing what, who's running what, who's able to bring shit in and out the kitchen, certain jobs like in visiting, so you can control the drug trade. Gambling, you got gambling tables, and whatever gambling tables has the best, the better odds, or the more money behind it, they can do more betting. So it's all everybody fighting for, basically peanuts. So the racial divide, I think, on the street is a lot different, because you got guys who are maybe, say you got a black Crip or a Blood, and he hooked up with a dude who was a Norteño on the street, and they, have a relationship from the pen, they gonna get out and get money. This guy's got the drug plug, this guy's got the plug on the straps, or this guy's tied into real estate, or this guy's tied into some type of financial business. They're gonna network. That same white guy who maybe couldn't talk to you in the pen, when he gets on the street, he sees you, he's gonna have that mutual respect, because you guys did time together, and you guys are gonna network, possibly, if you were cool, and he's gonna want to get money with you. So a lot of times going to the pen, it creates certain, racial divide, but these people on the street, these people are networking together. They're making moves because it's more open, and because there's a certain level of trust. If you know that, even though this guy was hanging out with the whites in the pen, but he was a straight up dude. He wasn't a hot boy. He wasn't a snitch. He wasn't a chomo, or any of that bullshit, then when you get on the street and you run across this dude and he sees you're doing good, he's doing good, he's gonna possibly want to network with you because he knows you were a stand-up guy and he knows that you guys have been through the fire together. You guys have walked that walk. See, a lot of the people on the street, they never walked that walk, and when they put under the gun, they're gonna tell like a motherfucker, or they're gonna just crumble just to crumble because they're not cut like that. So it's like having somebody who's mutually in the Marines with you, or in the Army, or Air Force, Navy, whatever the case may be. You know that person has a certain amount of training, a certain amount of psychological know-how, and that they can handle certain situations differently. So, whether it be, Serrano, Norteño, AB, like it's Blood Crip, GD, BGF. I mean, if a guy, like I said, has been to the pen, and you guys could, basically use that as mutual ground, there's a certain level of respect there. And, I'm not saying that a BGF is going to do business with an AB or anything like that, but at the same time, what I am saying is that people in, business situations, you got a guy with a suit on, you don't know what kind of tats he has underneath there. If he sees that you're a straight up guy and that you guys know that you guys have both been through the fire to the pen or, done time, then this guy is going to treat you differently than he would treat a guy who's never been to the pen. You know what I mean? It's just respect. And across the board, I know from just past experiences that I've run across dudes I did time with and on the street, and these guys were white, Mexican, and Asian, and it was just a lot of respect there because we do know how each other carries it when you're in the pen, and the guys having known that you're a respected person, they're gonna look at you differently. So the racial divide, it would still be there to some degree because you got certain people around them that would expect them to act a certain way, but for the most part, I think you would have a lot of business being done because when it comes to making money, whether it's drugs, whether it's real estate, whether certain people, they still have their attitude, but a lot of times, man, money talks, man. Money talks unless you're moving into certain neighborhoods and the demographically is predominantly a certain demographic, and they don't want you moving in there, and then you use one of your homies that is that particular demographic to get you up in there, and you still make it happen. And that's what guys from the pen do. And I've like I said, I've made moves with guys who are of a different race, and we've made money together, and things have been very positive. But a lot of that racial shit, man, it's just a lot of fucking dumb shit that's been carried on from institution to institution. And most of it's over drugs and money, man. Most of the bullshit is over finances. That's why a lot of these races hate each other, because somebody's been robbed, or somebody's been, somebody took somebody's drugs, or there was a situation where somebody was pressured into something and they jumped somebody or did something. It's all stupid shit, but if you're on the street, man, that racial divide, you have so much space to move around in. Why are you tripping? You know what I mean? If there's resources and everybody could eat, then it's all about eating and making money on the street. That's how I look at it. Some races don't look at it like that, but if you're in a economically inclined environment, people about their paper. And that's how, that's the racial situation in a whole. Lockdown's over. Get your yard time in. Exclusively at FreshOutSeries.com.